This is the online session for stress, anxiety and CBT on patient-centred practice. So before the session, you should have completed the workbook on PebblePad titled Patient-Centred Practice Independent Study Guide. The sections on there that you should have completed are around CBT, 5 areas model, and also developing a positive therapeutic relationship. The aims of this session are to become aware of the different types of anxiety and how it affects us, become aware of unhelpful thinking styles and how they might contribute to stress, develop an understanding of the impact of stress and anxiety on the therapeutic relationship, and gain some strategies to challenge unhelpful thinking, gain an insight into relaxation and its benefits. So the first online activity I'd like you to do is go to Blackboard, to our folder for this session, eTivity 1, and open the Google Doc for your teaching group. And on there, I'd like you to add some ideas about the symptoms and sensations that someone might feel with stress or anxiety. You might want to use images, GIFs, words, comments. It's your group's collaborative thoughts, so feel free to choose what you'd like to do. So if you want to pause me now, and once you've done that, come back to this presentation. Okay, so thinking about some of the things you might have put on your Google Doc, your collaboration. So some of the things I've thought of are things like tingling, pins and needles in the fingers, the toes, the legs, maybe numbness or feeling like you've got jelly legs. Often people come up with symptoms around the chest and the heart, so chest tightness, feeling like you can't breathe, or maybe like heart pumping, palpitations. There's often a lot of things around the head, so sort of headaches, sweating, blurred vision or tunnel vision, feeling like you can't swallow or feeling like you're choking. So I would imagine you've probably all come up with some of these different symptoms on the slide I've got there. So I'd like you to watch this short video now, which talks about how stress builds up, what kind of increases your stress, but also what might reduce your stress. If you can open the video on Blackboard and watch it and pause this video, come back to me once you've watched it. Okay, so if we think about some of the things that they said there about stress being a normal reaction, and we also think about some of the symptoms that you came up with on your Google Docs, and we talked about on the slide a few minutes ago. So a lot of these symptoms you can kind of relate to the fight or flight response. So if you think about many, many years ago in caveman times, you had real dangers, so big grizzly bears there to come and try and eat you, attack you. And what you would get in that situation with a real danger would be the fight or flight response. So the fight, you might build up tension. So this is where maybe they get the tight fists, your muscles pumping, your blood pumping, your heart racing, the tunnel vision making you really focused. So you're getting ready to fight. Or flight, even things like, or maybe like even playing dead. So often when you get the jelly legs, that's kind of linked back to play dead. So if you can't run away and you can't fight it, then you pretend that you're dead. So you flop to the floor and go really still. Or maybe you get ready to sort of run away. So things like needing a wee, so empty your bladder, make yourself as light as possible. It makes you run faster, basically. So if you think about these are like innate responses in us, in response to a fear, a true fear. So now what happens in current day is we might have a perceived threat, but we still get that same body response with the fight or flight. And so that's why people still get all those symptoms that you would have got if you had a real threat. So if you continue to have anxiety over several days or even weeks, your symptoms might increase and evolve. So you might start to get mood disturbance, sleeping difficulties, a loss of motivation. You might get sensitivity to noise. I don't know if anybody's ever been in a car driving somewhere you've never been before and you've got the sat nav on, the radio on, and then when you get closer and you start panicking, thinking, where am I? Maybe you're feeling like you're a bit lost. You have to turn the radio off because all of a sudden it just feels like it's a bit too loud. That would give you a little bit of an example of how that might feel. You might become forgetful, clumsy, indecisive, quite restless. You might lose your confidence and become a bit socially isolated. You might have these kind of unhelpful thoughts in your mind all the time that you just can't shake away. And then you might also kind of have a tendency to keep checking and seeking reassurance as well. So it can go into a bit of a cycle, really. So there might be an initial trigger there that you perceive as a threat, and then that kind of feeds into your emotions like worry and fear and apprehension. You might get those physical symptoms that we've talked about already, such as sweating, shaking, palpitations, breathing problems. And then when you get those symptoms, you might actually misinterpret those symptoms as something threatening. So then it becomes a perceived threat, and it just keeps fueling that anxiety of that cycle of anxiety going round and around. So the approach that I want to introduce you to today is called the 5 areas approach. So if you've had a look in the workbook, you will have seen some information about this already. So it's founded in cognitive behavioural therapy, which, as it says in the name, is a mixture of cognitive section, so around your thought process, the type of thinking that you're doing, but also the behaviours and the kind of interaction between those. So a 5 areas approach is a self-help program devised by Chris Williams, who's a psychiatrist. The website is there for his whole course and resources. Quite a lot of them are actually free, the modules, so you can go on there and have a try for yourself. Maybe it might be something that you might point your patients towards in the future, or even family and friends. So what he's looking at in this model is a process of change. So you're looking that you might notice that you're doing some unhelpful thinking or maybe some extreme thinking. It's about thinking about what kind of unhelpful thinking style am I doing, and then thinking, what can I change? Can I challenge that unhelpful thinking? Can I change my behaviours? So this is what the 5 areas model looks like. So at the top there, we've got the situation, relationship, practical problem. In the next box, we've got altered thinking. Over here, we've got altered physical symptoms, altered feelings, and then at the bottom there, altered behaviour and activity levels. And if you can see all the arrows here, it really does show you that between each and every box, there's an interaction. So it's not just a one-way cycle. So just to give you an example of how this might be filled in. So your situation might be that you need to go to the dentist because you've got toothache. Your altered thinking might be quite an extreme thinking, catastrophic style, I'm going to lose all my teeth. Your physical symptoms might be you start to feel sick, sweaty, clammy, get a tension headache. Your feelings might be of fear, anxiety, or even anger. And your altered behaviour level might be that you just don't go to the dentist because you become too scared about what might happen. Maybe they're going to pull all your teeth out and you can't take it. So what I'd like you to do now is have a go at filling one of these 5 areas reflection workbooks in. Now you will find this in eTivity 2 on Blackboard. So if you click the link, it will take you to a PebblePad workbook that you'll be able to fill in and save to your own asset store. So have a think about something that's happened to you, maybe either recently or in the past, or an example of somebody else if you can't think of anything. You might want to pick a phobia, fear of heights, fear of spiders, a situation where you've been late to class, first day on a placement maybe, you've lost your keys, going to catch a train or a bus, anything that you think you could use as an example of how maybe your thinking affected your behaviour and how you were feeling. So if you want to pause the presentation now and then come back to me when you finish that activity. Okay, so hopefully you've completed the workbook and you've got an idea of an example there. So now we're going to think about those negative or unhelpful thoughts. So why are they so unhelpful? Well, they're unhelpful because they change our mood. They make us feel anxious, depressed, upset, ashamed, or even feeling guilty. They might also make us change our behaviour and stop us doing some of the things we enjoy, and some of those things that maybe usually reduce our stress. Thinking back to that stress bucket, We might even engage in quite unhelpful behaviours, things that feed our fear. So we might do a lot of reassurance seeking, or changing different behaviours as well that might actually make us feel worse. So just to go through the unhelpful thinking styles identified by Chris Williams. So he's kind of come up with 7. And as I'm talking through this, see if you can have a think if there's maybe 1 or 2 that will be the ones that maybe when you're stressed and anxious, you might be biased towards. So thinking that in mind, the first one is bias against myself. I see this a lot in students. Those of you who overlook your strengths and focus on your weaknesses. I see it when people do a SWOT analysis and they do a big long list of weaknesses, but there's hardly any strengths in there. They tend to downplay their achievements and they're very critical of the self. So an example somebody might say, if you get the job of your dreams, but you still say, oh, it's because they only interviewed a few people. And then you have the people who put a negative slant on things. So it's almost like predicting something bad, really. So you see things through a dark tinted glasses, you focus on the negative in a situation. It's similar to the next unhelpful style, really. So you might, when you first day of placement, you're saying it's going to be awful, and then maybe it does end up being a bit awful. So similar to this one, having a gloomy view of the future, you're making lots of negative predictions about the future. You're predicting things are going to go wrong before they do go wrong. And you might even have that self-fulfilling prophecy where, because you've thought it's going to go wrong so much, you actually maybe change your behaviour, and you do give a negative outcome. Catastrophizing, so this is the one that I really do, and this is where you jump to the worst possible conclusion, often very, very extreme. You make negative predictions about the future, predict things are going to go wrong. It's always the very worst. So an example that I would give you is around like my husband. If he's late from work, I don't just think, oh, he's got caught up, somebody's caught him in the corridor, he's stuck in traffic. I'll immediately think he's had an accident. And I even go to the point where I ring him and I start ringing him, knowing that he probably can't even answer his phone because he's driving. But then when he doesn't answer, it just feeds my fear. And I even more think he's had an accident and he's in a ditch somewhere. So just to give you an example of catastrophic thinking, it's very extreme. Okay, having a negative view about how other people see you. Okay, so this is mind reading. This is where you're kind of second guessing what you think somebody might think about you. You're thinking, what do they think? You might often think people think badly of you. So an example of this might be if you text somebody and then they don't text you back, and you might get angry and annoyed. You think, oh, how rude are they? They've not even messaged me. You might think, have I done something to annoy them? So you tend to have this quite negative view around them, when actually the reality is they might have been busy, they might not have received the text, the phone might be turned off. But those kind of two situations give you very different emotions. Bearing all responsibility, I'm sure there's some people out there who do this. It's where you want to take the blame if things go wrong, even if it was a group work. You feel responsible, whether everyone has a good time, so maybe at a party, and you take this unfair responsibility about things that really aren't your fault. And then you've got the people who make extreme statements or set themselves unrealistic rules. They'll use words like, this always happens, this never happens, oh, it's typical, it always happens in this way. I make myself a lot, I try to make saying must, I should, I ought to do this, all those kind of rules. So you set things a bit too high, really, unachievable goals. So what unhelpful thinking styles are you prone to? If you can go on to Eativity 3 on the Blackboard site, there's a quick questionnaire on there. If you want to go and kind of answer the questions, and it will help you think about which you're probably, which unhelpful thinking style you tend to go to when you're anxious and stressed. So if you pause me now and come back to me when you've finished that. Okay, so which coping strategies might help manage anxiety? So there's quite a few different ones. We've got breathing techniques. I don't know if anybody's used any of the meditation apps. Like Calm is quite nice. It's got a breathing activity where there's a colourful circle, goes big and small, getting you to do kind of slow inhalation, exhalation. relaxation work. So lots of different types of relaxation out there. Sort of from your meditation stuff to sort of a muscle tensing, relaxing. You might do distraction techniques. Often we do that with our patients. So we try and take the mind off it, do some exercise, activity, focus on a task. Overcoming avoidance. So I don't know if anybody's heard about, and I think we do it as physios a little bit, but part of CBT is graded exposure. So you start kind of introducing somebody in a safe way to the thing that they're most afraid of. So that might be like maybe a patient's afraid of weight bearing through one side, one leg, because they've had a stroke, they think their leg's going to give way. And in order to try and get them to overcome that fear, we'll do kind of weight transfer activities. We might distract them by using some kind of game or sport or something like that to try and get them weight bearing over that leg, or we might get them to focus on it. Maybe we put the foot on some weighing scales and they can put pressure through it. So a lot of these sort of interventions we do as a physiotherapist as well. It just kind of gives you a bit of theory behind what it is you're doing. Okay, so we might do lifestyle changes. So we might focus on some positive, healthy behaviours. And again, physios are going to be key with this. So things like exercise as well. Also diet and sleep. Getting people to be more assertive. So building their confidence, being more resilient. And also getting people to notice and challenge unhelpful or extreme thinking. So first of all, recognising that they're doing it and then maybe thinking about how can they challenge that thought, so thinking around the evidence maybe for and against. So to challenge an unhelpful thought, there's certain questions that you can do that might help you come up with an alternative thought. So an unhelpful thought might be, I won't be able to do this. The alternative thought might be, no one is perfect, I'm good at some things and not so good at others. So some of the questions you might do to kind of help you get there, and I find some of these work better for me than others. So what's the evidence for and against? Get it out of your head, write it down on some paper. Is there another explanation? So get you to kind of come up with lots of different ideas of alternative explanations. So if it's around perhaps health anxiety and you get some chest pain, and you think immediately, oh, I'm going to have a heart attack, something wrong with my heart, what you would do is maybe you could write out a list of different alternative things that they might be causing the chest pain. So it could be indigestion, it could be the posture, you've been sat over a computer all day, and the idea is you do a big long list of lots of different things, and then you start at the bottom and you work yourself up with a percentage of which seems the most likely, and then you might even draw a pie chart, and then it kind of visually shows you what the alternatives might be for how you're feeling. If I wasn't feeling like this, what would I say? What's the worst that could happen? Well, that doesn't work well for a catastrophizer. It often feeds their fear. And what would I say to a friend? Am I jumping to conclusions? Am I focusing on my strengths instead of on my weaknesses? You might use something like a thought diary. Here's an example of one. So the thought might be, I just saw my friend in the shop, she ignored me. How does that make you feel? It's a kind of mind reading style of unhelpful thinking because you're kind of second guessing what they think. And then you'd write the evidence for and against. Did she wave back to me when I waved? Against. She didn't wave back when I waved. Against would be, well, she's probably busy. She might not have seen me. She wasn't wearing her glasses. So then you try and turn it into a more positive thought. She probably didn't see me. I'll send her a message saying that I saw her. And then think, how does it make you feel? You probably feel a little bit happier. On Blackboard, there's a thought investigation sheet as well. So you can download and have a look at that with another example similar to this of how you might unpick that thought and try and make it a more positive outcome. Okay, so thinking about another strategy that we're going to introduce you to today is relaxation. So this is a state of being free from tension and worry. The health benefits are it lowers blood pressure, reduces the risk of heart attack and stroke, maintains a healthy immune system, improves memory and concentration, reduces the levels of stress hormones, increases energy levels, reduces pain, breaks the anxiety cycle, because by turning on relaxation symptoms, you turn on the symptoms of tension. Okay, so we're going to have a little go now. I'm going to talk you through an autogenic relaxation, a guided relaxation. So if you would like to pause me and find somewhere comfortable, either lying down or sitting and resting on a table with your eyes closed, and then click play and listen to me talk you through this autogenic relaxation. You can find this relaxation script on Blackboard if you'd like to download it and use it yourself. Begin by breathing deeply, drawing air in deep into your lungs and releasing the breath slowly. Breathe in 2, 3, 4 and hold 2, 3. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5. Again. Breathe in 2, 3, 4. Hold. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep taking some slow, deep breaths. And now turn your attention to your right hand. Feel the skin on the palm of your right hand becoming warm and relaxed. And feel the warmth in each finger and on your palm spreading to the back of your hand and to your wrist. Feel the right arm becoming warm. The right arm is starting to feel heavy, very relaxed. Your right arm is warm, heavy, and relaxed. Now focus on your left hand. Picture placing your left hand into soothing, warm water. Feel the warmth relaxing your hand completely. Allow your wrist to enter the warm, calming water and relax. Your arm is becoming heavy. Allow your left arm to sink into the warm water. The left arm feels warm, heavy, and relaxed. And now turn your attention to your legs and feel your legs becoming warm. Feel the warmth spreading all the way from your feet to your ankles, your lower legs, your knees and hips. And feel your legs becoming heavy and very relaxed. Your legs are warm, heavy and relaxed. Now imagine a warm breeze blowing across your face and feel your face and head relaxing. Your eyelids are feeling heavy. Now picture the sun shining down on you, warming the front of your body. Allow your chest and stomach to relax in this warmth and feel the sun shining, warming your skin, relaxing your body as your body is filled with heavy, warm, pleasant relaxation. And now imagine sitting with your back to a pleasant campfire. Feel the warmth of the fire on your back and feel your back warming and relaxing. The warmth spreads all the way from your neck to your shoulders, your upper back, middle and lower back, and you feel your body relaxing as it becomes warm and calm. Feel that heaviness in your entire body, warm, heavy, relaxed, and enjoy this calm, relaxed feeling. Notice your smooth, even breathing, relaxed and deep, drawing you deeper into relaxation. Your body feels heavy, warm and relaxed. Enjoy this relaxation for a few more moments. And now slowly bring your attention back to the present. With your eyes closed, notice the room around you. Notice the surface you're lying or sitting on and hear the sounds in your environment. And start to reawaken your body by wiggling your fingers and toes, move your arms and legs, and stretch if you like. And when you're ready, open your eyes and become fully alert. Okay, so hopefully you've come around from that little relaxation. That just shows you that just 5 minutes of relaxation can have quite significant effects. And usually when we do this in class, sometimes people even fall asleep. Not everybody relaxes in the same way. And that's just something to bear in mind. People have different forms of relaxation. So I'm hoping by the end of that session and the activities that you've done online that you're aware of the different types of anxiety and how it affects you. You're aware of unhelpful thinking styles and how they might contribute to stress. You have some understanding about how stress and anxiety affects you, and you can apply that to your relationship with your patients. You've got some strategies to challenge unhelpful thinking for yourself and for your patients, and you have an insight into relaxation and its benefits. Okay, so if you relate this to your assessment, to your assignment, there might be some patients that you think maybe unhelpful thinking was a barrier to your progress. I know I can think back to patients that I've looked after where there was a fear underlying them. Maybe if I'd have known about some of these strategies or ways to question or get them to unpick their unhelpful thoughts, I may have kind of moved them a little bit further on with the goals. There might even be those patients who don't attend after the first or second session, and you always wonder why. And it might just be that they were just a little bit too scared. So when we're thinking about the assignment, you might want to relate this to one of the possible interventions. You might choose to look at CBT or 5 areas approach in your qualitative research. So we've got some resources there on the presentation. You can also find this as a Google presentation, which you can download and save for yourself. So what I'd advise you to do now is read the booklet on Blackboard about stress and anxiety and have a look at the Living Life to the Full website and think about registering and looking at the free modules.